I am Lord Voldemort, the mightiest sorcerer to tread the halls of wizarding history, yet forced into the shadows by the infant Harry Potter, who deflected my killing curse through the cunning of ancient sacrificial magic. After my attempt to seize the Philosopher's Stone collapsed, I was once again robbed of physical form. I fled to Eastern Europe, seeking any residue of dark enchantments that might sustain me. Eventually, I found myself in Albania, where the forests were densely overgrown, seldom patrolled, and steeped in old, half-forgotten wizard lore. At first, I existed as a wraith, a pitiful, half-sentient echo of what I had once been. I could sense the damp hush of the trees, hear creatures scuttling below the thick canopy, but I could neither fully interact with nor dominate my environment. Even so, I clung to one certainty: I had not perished. Though crippled and disembodied, my consciousness endured, brimming with hatred for those who presumed me finished. Their ignorance was laughable. From the moment I was torn from my body at Godric's Hollow, I vowed that no power, no aura, no Dumbledore would keep me from my rightful place. The humiliation fueled my every thought, lending me focus. Alone among rotting leaves and ancient wards, I repeated my silent oath: I will return. In this Albanian wilderness, I discovered how to persist as something more than a mere ghost. To survive, I learned to possess small animals, snakes, sometimes rats, and siphon what life force I could. Each possession was brief, leaving my vessel wasted and frail. Still, the momentary sensation of living breath, of a heartbeat, was a perverse kind of nourishment. The forest itself felt timeless, shrouded in thick fog and steeped in nameless dread, perfect for a spirit clinging to unlife. Between possessions, I drifted in a cold silence that gnawed at my mind. The wizarding world carried on blithely, convinced I was gone. Occasionally, I overheard travelers discussing events at Hogwarts. Dumbledore's comings and goings, rumors about Harry Potter and the Ministry's endless politics. How they prattled on, unaware that their supposed victory rested on a single moment of ill luck for me. My anger never faded. It served as my lantern in that darkness. As the months passed, I gleaned bits of intelligence from unsuspecting witches who camped near the forest, or from local rumors whispered by tavern patrons. Gradually, I pieced together that Potter was safe at Hogwarts, ignorant of the long shadow I still cast. The wizarding world's complacency enraged me, but also comforted me. Secrecy would be my shield as I prepared for the day I could seize a new body. In those early months, I rarely thought about Peter Pettigrew. He was a minor follower in the old days, timid, overshadowed by my more formidable Death Eaters. Reports suggested he had died shortly after my downfall, and I never considered him vital. The real traitors in my mind were those who had claimed the Imperious Curse to dodge Azkaban, or those who lurked in respectable wizarding circles, pleading ignorance of my plans. Pettigrew was scarcely worth a second thought. Still, as I scoured the Albanian ruins for scraps of dark magic, I sometimes wondered which of my servants might still be free. Perhaps they were in hiding, perhaps jailed. Little did I know that Pettigrew had survived all this time by taking refuge in his animagus form, a rat, sheltered unknowingly by a wizarding family in Britain. While I toiled in a forest saturated with rot and half-faded curses, Pettigrew lived in relative comfort, feeding on table scraps. In that lonely stretch, I believed my rescue, if it came at all, would be from a different source. I never expected that the same coward who betrayed the Potters would one day slither back to me, offering his services out of desperation. Fate, as I have often observed, is not without irony. All that changed after the fiasco involving my old diary at Hogwarts. Unbeknownst to me at first, a piece of my soul had been destroyed by Harry Potter and his allies. It confirmed that direct assaults, or even relics from my past, were far too risky while I remained so weak. I fumed in isolation, vowing not to repeat mistakes. And then, one moonlit night, Pettigrew stumbled into my forest clearing. He appeared emaciated, eyes wide with panic, stammering, "My lord, I've come to serve." I recall how my spectral presence coiled around him, assessing his sincerity. Pettigrew reeked of fear, always had, and I savored the power that gave me, even in my half-formed state. He babbled about Sirius Black's escape from Azkaban, his own flight from Hogwarts, and the threat of discovery. Yet he professed unwavering loyalty, swearing he had only disappeared to avoid capture. My first instinct was to destroy him for abandoning me. However, my cunning won out. If Pettigrew had survived, then he could navigate the wizarding world with ease, something I could not do as a wraith. He was the key to renewing my physical form. I forced him to lead me deeper into the forests, where we set up a hidden camp in a dank cave behind a curtain of hanging vines. With trembling hands, Pettigrew laid out stolen potions, a battered cauldron, and old texts dealing with necromancy. At last, I sensed a genuine path forward. While Hogwarts fixated on Sirius Black, I, Lord Voldemort, would begin crafting my resurrection in secret. Living in that cave was an odious arrangement. I watched Pettigrew bungle simple potions, shaking with every whispered incantation. Yet we made small strides. We gathered ingredients rumored to support a disembodied spirit, certain herbs, serpentine venom, charmed bones. Our experiments were hit or miss, often ending with me howling in rage as the magic fizzled or the vessel we conjured collapsed into dust. Pettigrew trembled under my anger, but knew he could not abandon me now. If the Ministry or Sirius Black found him, he would be doomed, and I was his only real protection. From Pettigrew's nervous chatter, I learned that Dementors had been stationed at Hogwarts to apprehend Black. Harry Potter's name surfaced repeatedly. He had a knack for stumbling into danger, it seemed, and was rumored to have cast a Patronus powerful enough to repel Dementors. Though my hatred for the boy was immeasurable, I recognized my folly in attacking him prematurely. If Dumbledore was doubling security around Hogwarts, a direct assault would fail. My chance would come when I had a new body, when I could tear through any protection with the unstoppable power I once wielded. The cave itself smelled of stale water and burnt herbs. A single torch flickered against the dripping stone walls, revealing Pettigrew's scribbled notes on half-rotted parchment. I endured this squalor, fueled by the knowledge that the final prize, my physical form, would be worth every indignity. By the late winter of that year, Pettigrew felt compelled to slip back into Britain. We lacked certain rare ingredients for our next phase, potent extracts available only through backroom dealings in Diagon Alley or Nocturne Alley. Though I reviled his cowardice, I permitted him to go. Each trip risked exposure, but we needed the supplies. Alone in the cave, I resumed my parasitic existence. I possessed snakes or vermin to keep my spirit tethered, all the while rehearsing the rituals we hoped would bring me corporeal strength. Between trips, Pettigrew returned with frantic updates. The Dementors had turned Hogwarts into a place of dread. Harry Potter, along with his friends, was somehow thriving despite these dark omens. Sirius Black remained at large, fueling the Daily Prophet's hysteria. How splendid it was that the wizarding world focused on capturing Black instead of seeking me. Occasionally, Pettigrew also mentioned that the werewolf Remus Lupin taught defense against the dark arts, a sign, perhaps, that Dumbledore was less conventional than ever. None of it truly mattered. I was content to let them chase illusions while I hovered on the edge of rebirth. The irony was delicious. The Ministry believed its greatest threat to be a lone fugitive animagus, while I, the Dark Lord they claimed to have vanquished, was quietly forging the path to a greater return. Even my name was barely whispered, reinforcing their fatal sense of security. Then came the moment Pettigrew found himself cornered at Hogwarts by Black, Remus Lupin, and, yes, Harry Potter. He had smuggled himself back into the castle in rat form, but was exposed in the Shrieking Shack. They nearly killed him for betraying the Potters, only to be halted by Potter's naive mercy. Pettigrew transformed into a rat once more and fled into the night. Days later, he reappeared in our Albanian hideout, panting and caked in mud. His confession sparked my fury. In one stroke, he had revealed himself to everyone who mattered, alerting them that Peter Pettigrew was alive and a traitor. He cowered under my wrath, sobbing that Harry chose to spare his life. Harry Potter, the boy who thwarted me twice. Yet, I saw opportunity in this revelation. Potter's mercy, a weakness to be exploited when we inevitably crossed paths again. If the boy believed so fervently in redemption, I would show him how misplaced compassion can seal one's doom. Though enraged at Pettigrew's recklessness, I grudgingly accepted his survival as a twisted blessing. Without him, I could not finalize the potions we needed. In time, the wizarding world might realize Pettigrew was alive, but they would not suspect he had found me. For now, we remained ghosts in the background, overshadowed by the scandal of Sirius Black and the Dementor's failure to capture him. Fate seemed to mock them, but it served my purpose. With Pettigrew's return, I redoubled our efforts to complete the rudimentary steps of my resurrection. We scoured every dark tome he procured, from dusty volumes on blood magic to cryptic scrolls detailing half-finished resurrection spells. The cave filled with the acrid fumes of experimental brews, shimmering liquids that hissed when stirred, thick potions that clung to the cauldron like tar. Our chants, hushed and feverish, echoed through the gloom. Shadows danced on the walls as we invoked ancient powers, seeking even a temporary vessel for my spirit. We learned that some spells demanded ingredients we could not easily obtain. Bone of a father, flesh of a servant, blood of an enemy. Elements that would power the final transformation. Clearly, we lacked the means to stage that ultimate ritual in this remote hideout. Pettigrew, pale and sweating under my scrutiny, proposed searching for an ally in Britain, someone who could host us discreetly until the time was right. The notion disgusted me. I hated relying on others. Still, necessity overshadowed pride. My thirst for a body grew so insistent that I was willing to risk leaving the obscurity of Albania. Through each grueling incantation, I felt flickers of potential. The swirling magic sometimes let me manifest a faint, twisted silhouette. My mind crackled with fresh intensity, an electric promise of what was to come. And while Pettigrew trembled at the next stage's grisly requirements, I reveled in the knowledge that our moment approached, one in which I would emerge from the shadows more formidable than ever. While I toiled in secrecy, Harry Potter's third year at Hogwarts wrapped up in dramatic fashion, Dementors swarming the school, an alleged murder attempt in the Shrieking Shack, and a daring escape by Sirius Black. Pettigrew recounted how a powerful Patronus drove back a legion of Dementors by the lake. Potter, impossibly, had harnessed a level of magic beyond most students' grasp. I felt a flicker of grudging respect, if only because his accomplishments hinted at deeper potential. Yet, let no one mistake my sentiments for admiration. I considered the boy's success an obstacle to be dismantled. Lily Potter's sacrifice had shielded him once, and now his own aptitude threatened to make him a worthy opponent if I acted carelessly. But not yet. Let the child believe in hope, in friendships, in the sanctity of Hogwarts. My downfall taught me the perils of underestimating magic, bound by love and loyalty. Next time, I would be meticulous. When I faced Potter again, I would leave no chance for heroics or last-second rescues. I studied every tidbit Pettigrew provided, searching for angles. The boy's trust in mercy, his unwavering belief in the good, these were chinks in his armor. One day soon, I would pry them open. For now, Hogwarts let out for the summer, the Dementors withdrew, and the wizarding world breathed a sigh of relief. They assumed the worst was over. Could they be more blind? My footsteps, metaphorical though they were, already echoed on the path back to them. As that year ended, I found myself on the threshold of true resurgence. The wizarding community still believed Sirius Black was their top concern, never suspecting that I, Lord Voldemort, remained active, hungry, and increasingly organized. My exile in Albania had been a hideous limbo, but it had also steeled my resolve. Pettigrew, though pitiful, proved vital in gathering knowledge and supplies. His presence served as a constant reminder of how human frailty and fear can be harnessed by someone willing to exploit them. Our final nights in that dripping cave saw the cauldron perpetually bubbling with half-finished experiments. The glow of a small fire cast flickering shapes across the rock, revealing shelves lined with jars of questionable substances, animal bones, dried herbs, dark powders whose names are best left unspoken. The air was thick with the stench of rotting leaves and pungent incense. If you had stood there, you would have felt the oppressive weight of my ambition pressing against your very soul. At last, I concluded we had done all we could in those forsaken forests. The next stage required stealthy travel and an eventual alliance with those who might shelter us in Britain. Even as we packed the potions and scrolls, I remembered my final glance at the dying embers of our makeshift fire, their glow reflected in Pettigrew's anxious eyes. He had traded one terror, Sirius Black, for another, me. In my mind, I pictured the moment he would offer Harry Potter's blood into a cauldron, sealing the boy's fate and renewing my own. That vision sustained me as we vanished into the night. Let the wizarding world hold to its illusions a bit longer. I would return in force, and no mercy or miracle would stand between me and the dominion I was meant to claim. Thank you for venturing into the hidden corners of Voldemort's story with us, uncovering how vengeance can simmer in the dark, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. If you found this exploration as riveting as we did, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more deep dives into the minds and methods of literature's greatest antagonists. This was the Antagonist Diaries. And remember, every villain has a story.